What's going on, guys? You know what time it is. It's W.D.Y.D. CSP time. What do you do as a central still processor? Guys, today we're going back to basics and we're talking the assembly area and assembly. We always talk about the inspection of our instrumentation for cleanliness, but there's an acronym that is taught by one of our technical programs, FAN. We create packs for our end users that are functional, accurate, and neat. And the part I want to talk about right now is the functional part. Guys, instrumentation that could be disassembled should be disassembled to be properly cleaned. And instrumentation that can be disassembled should be disassembled for proper sterilization. But there are some IFUs out there that state that the instrument may be assembled to be sterilized or should be assembled to be sterilized. And that's because from the perspective of the user, it may take or can cause damage to the user's PPE when assembling. It may cause pinch points or a snag or anything of that nature. So some instrumentation does require assembly for the end user to use so that they can be safe when they're manipulating the instruments and don't damage their PPEs or contaminate the field, right? But some instrumentation requires disassembly for sterilization and for testing. For inspection. But do we inspect our instrument and don't put it together to make sure that it functions properly? We should be. So any instrument that can be assembled should be assembled in order to test the functionality of it. So if there's a sheath and an insert, we want to make sure that when we place the insert in there, we don't feel no dragging or catching or pinching or any kinking. It should be a smooth insertion and a proper insertion from the distal tip, from the distal tip all the way to the proximal end. Okay, you would feel if the instrument is bent and you put it in there, you'll feel some dragging or resistance, and you can be like, you know something? Something's wrong with this instrument. I need to put it out for repair, right? Assemble the instrumentation, right? If you don't know how to assemble it, ask a technician that does know how to, right? Or you can pull up the IFU, but let's be honest, guys. How many of us take the time to stop, pull up an IFU, and see how the instrument is assembled or disassembled? We usually ask the questions, and me personally, I play with the instrument. I try to see what it looks like, brand spanking new. If there's a backup instrument, it's usually assembled, and I look at it and go, something, that's what it's supposed to look like. Let me see. But many instruments follow the same guidelines as predecessor instruments. So this is almost like some of our laparoscopic instrumentation, okay, or like some of the Carisons. You want to slide that in there, pull that trigger, drop that little ball and that little notch. It's almost like puzzling, right? Like if you're good at puzzles, you'd be great at assembling instrumentation, right? And as technicians, I always teach my students that you should be analytical thinkers and you should be troubleshooters. So part of that is figuring out how to assemble and disassemble instrumentation by asking questions and being curious. So you assemble your instrument, you want to test its functionality, make sure everything is running smooth. If you need to lubricate it before assembly, that'll be in the IFUs or the instructions in the count sheet. Give it a lubrication if you can. If it needs to stay assembled, it will say keep assembled for sterilization or disassemble prior to sterilization. So we've tested the function, everything is in working order. We want to reverse the process and disassemble the instrumentation prior to packing it, okay? For instrumentation that's pretty complex, or not gonna say complex because complexity is only something that you experience in the beginning. Once you do it, it becomes like second nature. For instrumentation that has multiple parts, again, I'm not saying figure this out on your own. We are a tribe. There are so many resources. Google, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, manufacturers' websites, IFUs. Check them out, read them, take the time to figure out the instrumentation, to say, okay, to master the instrumentation, not to figure it out, to master it. We're inspecting for cleanliness in the prep and pack side. We are also testing functionality, okay? So with instruments like scopes, we want to make sure that we can visualize, right? We can see, okay? There's no cracks. There's no cracks on the glass. There's nothing going on with the eyepiece. When we look at the eyepiece, you got clear vision of whatever you're looking at, right? If there's a light source, you want to go ahead and shine the light source and see if you have any breakages in the fiber optics. But then this instrument gets assembled, right? There's a piece and eyepiece here, right? So this eyepiece, there's only one way to put this on, right? You can't do it any other way. You can't go this way. You can't go this way. You'll see that this slides in, but it just doesn't sit like that, right? Okay, if you look at the end, if you're examining and you're truly inspecting the instrument, you'll see that there's two little pinch points on this instrument where you can pinch it and pop it into place so that you can turn and check and close the distance in the eyepiece and make sure that you can visualize out of that piece as well. As far as the trocar and the obturator, which is right there, okay, this trocar is a multi-piece trocar, right? So we can see notches on here. We can see notches in there, okay? There's only one way to put this together. This is a big notch. This is a little notch. Big notch on top, little notch on the bottom. And this video isn't about how to assemble this specific instrument, but it's more about being curious, knowing when an instrument comes together, can be assembled, when it can be disassembled. And as a technician in the assembly side, you are obligated, and it is part of your duty to make sure that you are giving the end user functional instruments. If you're placing something together and it's an obvious fit and for some reason it's stuck and it's not going in, okay, you want to troubleshoot that. Hey, I see a notch here, or I see, a bend in this piece right here that's not allowing that instrument to enter smoothly. That's how you know if instruments need to go out for repair. Okay, if an instrument looks like there was, at one point you remembered that there was an O-ring on there, and now all of a sudden the O-ring's missing. Okay, that's something that you should be aware of. And it comes with time, guys. It does come with time. But instrumentation that can go in there, you see it doesn't go in. Okay, but you see these little notches. You're playing with it. Try it in the open. Oh, look at that. It drops and then it locks, right? Place the instrument together, fully assembled. Make sure that nothing is being hindered or very troublesome to assemble or disassemble. Make sure all the working latches work. All the locks that's supposed to lock is working properly, right? This is the unlock position. Scope goes in. There's your locking position. Okay, everything is functioning as should. But then again, before we pack this instrument, we want to make sure that we are disassembling prior to sterilization so that we have proper contact with all parts of the instrument prior to sending to our end users. All right, guys, as always, stay true to yourselves, keep it 100, continue educating yourself, and until next time, peace.